Moving on to what's happening in the state of Maharashtra, the Bombay High Court, in a landmark judgment, has empowered the state government to take action against landowners and builders who flouted the long-abandoned Urban Land Ceiling Act by recovering their excess land. The developer lobby is crying foul, stating that if the law no longer exists, then why take retrospective action? Ashish Bhatia makes sense of the story.
While other states long abolished the over 3-decade-old, heavily criticized Urban Land Ceiling Act for hindering urban development, Maharashtra had to wait until resolution to repeal the Urban Land Ceiling Act, moved by late Chief Minister Vilasrao Deshmukh, got passed in the State Assembly in late 2007. However, even today, while the Urban Land Ceiling Department maintains that previously mandatory no-objection certificate for projects on land measuring at least 500 square meter are no longer needed, the Building Proposals Department of Mumbai Municipal Corporation (BMC) has stalled project approvals as it isn't clear whether they are on land that was acquired under the earlier ULCRA. This has resulted in projects getting stuck in a limbo. That apart, a recent High Court ruling says developers can now get their land exempted only if they hand over 5% of the total flats from public housing. In an exclusive chat with NDTV, opposition party BJP President of Maharashtra heavily criticized the Congress-NCP-led government for the lacking clarity and confusion.
But I don't know why government is still doing the exercise whereby on paper it is showing that the land is wasted, and then again people are called to Mantralaya, hearings are held, and then the same Supreme Court judgment is cited and the lands are freed. And while making the lands free, dealings are happening. ULC offices are still in existence just for the vested interest, just to collect money.
While for developers, the only option is to respect the judgment, approaching the Supreme Court appears to be the last option now. They say verdicts like these are ill-timed for the state and nation looking at providing mass housing.
In reality, we know that the ULC was scrapped because it did not provide affordable housing. But the residuaries of those sections are still being interpreted by the courts for the simple reason that the governments and the industry has not been able to deliver affordable housing. So on one side, I think it is necessary for the government, like Narendra Modi's objective, in order to create 25 million houses, then the ULC will actually get buried. It has been scrapped but not buried.
While from figures that NDTV looked at, land has been exempted more than it was acquired under the Act. Experts say only a reversal of norms would shield the end consumer from ballooning prices.
The mere availability of landmass or FSI will obviously impact in creation of lands, of home stocks, of more housing units, etc. In which case obviously the supply will increase and will have some cooling effect on the prices as well, if it's actually that huge a supply that we are anticipating.
Legal experts agree too that if the government has everyone's interest at heart, they should be demonstrated in its drafted policies too.
As far as public policy is concerned, for weaker sections is concerned, they can impose certain restrictions, and that is kept in the saving clause of every repealment, especially in ULC. Of course, it's an constitutional question and it can be challenged in Supreme Court.
It doesn't look like anytime soon Maharashtra will be able to get rid of the cloud of uncertainty around the Urban Land Ceiling and Regulation Act. While the developers try and find a way out, for the moment the deadlock continues between all the stakeholders. And this continues to spell bad news for the buyers. With camera person Harmeet in Mumbai, Ashish Bhatia for NDTV.
The abolition of the Urban Land Ceiling and Regulation Act, or ULCRA, in Maharashtra in 2007 was described as a red-letter day by the developer community in the state. But today, the industry seems to be seeing red with the recent High Court order that has empowered the state government to reclaim all the surplus land that builders got ownership of under the ULCRA. Let's understand the ramifications of this development from local players from that region. Please welcome Shailesh Puranik, MD Puranik Builders and President Thane MCHI, and Amit Mehta, Advocate, Bombay High Court. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. Shailesh, I would like to begin with you. Your first reaction to the recent Bombay High Court verdict. How are you and your developer body, MCHI, reacting to this?
No, firstly, we are reviewing the order passed by Honorable Court, and we are also preparing for the appeal against this order in Supreme Court. But I think one thing I might want to clear over here, that though the act is repealed, some sections are saved, and on those some sections lot of interpretations are happening, and we are again and again going into these interpretations, and there are conflicting judgments coming. One order is passed in favor of government, one order is passed in favor of developers, again a new order, a new bench is constituted. All these things is leading to a lot of confusion. So my sincere request to everybody concerned, especially government, to bring in clarity. If we bring in clarity, we can create surplus stock. And if we can create surplus stock, then only the prices of homes will come down. The more hurdles, more impediments, more discretionary powers we have, or more interpretations of the law, it ultimately translates into the projects getting stuck, and the projects are stuck, the supply choked, and demand is still there. So we again see prices rising. I think so we all need to come together, reach a consensus, evolve a consensus, and we have easiness in implementing rules. Whatever rules you want, you bring in transparency and ease of implementation, and no discretionary issues or no issues left for judgment by multiple authorities and multiple courts. I think that is my humble suggestion here to government.
All right, Amit, Shailesh is talking about this cloud of confusion over, no clarity over whether this is a win for the developer community or for the government. Can you break it down for us? There is some talk about the savings clauses in the repealed act even giving some relief to the developer community. Can you help us understand the legal aspect of this?
Yeah, hi Vasundhara, good evening and good evening to NDTV viewers. This law which came in 1976 and it was repealed in 2007, it actually gave a good effect. By this, the public housing as such is going to increase in the market. However, with this judgment on September 4th, 2014, there is some confusion which has been created. This clearly states that even though the law has been repealed, the developers cannot still escape their liability of giving 5% as public housing. Now, if you go through the judgment, there are various interpretations, and I'm sure the developers are going to challenge this in the Supreme Court. However, I think once the public housing increases, I think the market will stabilize more, and there are more affordable homes for the people by and large. So I think it's a good judgment. However, the interpretations has been little different, and that is going to take some time to get it effect through the citizens of Mumbai and maybe across state. Let me tell you one more thing, that in B category of cities like Pune, Nagpur, etc., more than 1,000 square meters of plot which were available were basically taken as the benchmark for implementing the Urban Land Sealing Act. However, in Mumbai, it was 500 square meters and above. So individuals who are having 500 square meters and above had to surrender this. So I think it's a good judgment and it's a welcome judgment. However, the interpretation needs to be done in more details.
Shailesh, Amit is calling this a welcome judgment. Are there any specific regions, any markets that could see an impact of this recent High Court order? Any markets we need to be looking at?
No, I don't feel that any market that we are supposed to look at because of this. But one thing is pretty clear, that unless the clear interpretation of judgment is out, developer as well as government can do effective implementation of this judgment and can have their plans for the projects drawn out, because we are still trying to analyze what the judgment says. Because when you read the judgment in total, what you in turn find out is it's again saying that whatever is saved under the Repeal Act, that is actions under 10.3, 10.5 and 21 are saved. So those are in effect till today also. So I don't think the judgment is saying something new. It is the same thing which is repeated. I think High Court is trying to say that, okay, the Repeal Act is still in force. In turn means the 3 sections which are saved, those are still in force. So I don't think there is something new that has come out from this judgment. Yes, there was something new came out of some conflicting judgments earlier, what we saw. And we hope that a favorable judgment, which is favoring everybody, the developers, the government and the customers at large, comes out when we approach Supreme Court.
All right. Amit, also to the question of the fact that land records in the country are yet to be digitized, it's going to be a cumbersome process for the government to actually, if it goes ahead with the High Court verdict, to actually take action against, retrospective action against errant developers. It's going to be a cumbersome task to actually identify those surplus land parcels. What do you think can happen there?
You're right, Vasu. Basically, if you find that in this judgment, when you bifurcate into a couple of parts, the implementation is going to be a very big issue in future. Because when you go for transfer of a property from one owner to another owner, it is done in maybe 3 or 4 years' time. However, when you're actually going to acquire it back, there's a government who is going to acquire it back, it is going to do it very quick. So this is going to give rise to more corruption, and it is going to give lots of more litigations in the country, because implementation is going to be a big issue right now, because everyone is going to have their viewpoint. So I think the government needs to have one single authority who should actually look into this matter, because it's there lots of land is involved in this, and it is going to have lots of disputes in near future.
All right, Shailesh, you're representing MCHI here on the panel. So I'd like your view on the broader question of having a urban land ceiling system. A couple of states still are yet to repeal it. Now, the rationale behind having such a system in place was to prevent private hoarding of land, to open land for public housing. That experiment failed, and obviously the act was repealed. And now the criticism is that all that was expected after the repealment was that land prices could sober down, and more land could be unblocked for public housing. That as well has not happened. So either way, the issue of public housing has not been addressed. What do you propose then?
No, I think I completely agree with you. The entire the reason behind bringing out ULC was to stop hoarding of land, to increase supply in the market, so that the land is not locked in the hands of few. But what has happened is, it has choked the supply. And because it has choked the supply, it has increased the prices of land, which ultimately result in increasing the prices of end user or the flats that customers buy. So what we want, what everybody wants, and what government wants to bring in is transparency, so that acts are brought in such a way that there is a single window clearance, lands are cleared and the projects are cleared at a faster pace. Of course, no hoarding of land happens, and ultimately supply increases, which will bring down the prices in future.
All right, so a lot of ambiguity there in Maharashtra's realty industry on what happens to the Urban Land Ceiling Act, and post the Bombay High Court order, the fight is now obviously going to reach the country's apex code, which is when we'll get more clarity. Shailesh and Amit, thank you so much for joining us on this issue.